Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In the jungle of game boxes, there is so much that you can pick up to play your old school retro games. But this particular model, is it still worth buying? This thing had a lot of capabilities when it comes to retro emulation, but still it had a lot of problems, like a lot of these boxes by the way. But it came with very interesting controllers, not the chemical PlayStation ones, but also the design was made for putting it on your television. The overall experience was not bad at all. Of course, they have these weird looking non-branded SD cards, and it even had the option to play some PlayStation Portable. Sometimes you find these devices that make no sense whatsoever when it comes to opening it up, and overall the experience was quite mixed. The question remains, is this thing still worth picking up? Because they keep selling some of these devices even years after they were released. And the question also remains, how is it now? Is it still worth buying, or should you absolutely avoid it? But welcome to the absolutely crazy jungle of different ways to play when it comes to AliExpress game boxes. Some look like an Xbox, some look like a PlayStation, some look like nothing, or they have this golden box that are absolutely horrendous when it comes to the internal parts. There are so many crazy ways, but most of them are based on an Android box. But nevertheless, it's time for Unpackage from China. The Gamebox H6 is an S95X3 model. That basically means the S95X3 is a chipset they're using in all kinds of Android boxes. It is not the best one, but when it comes, some of the game boxes has the S95X3, and when you're paying not a lot of money for it, we do get an amazing performance. But there we're going to get some differences with game boxes nowadays. They will say they have the same kind of chipset, maybe some of them will some differences in the speed of the chip itself or the hertz it's running on. I think when you're looking at some of the devices, the form factor is important, the cooling, but also how are the overall emulators performing. There are only a few of these game boxes out there that absolutely have a very cool design, and this is one of them. The idea is basically that you're going to put it on top of your monitor or TV. I don't know how it's going to be working out because the monitors and also the TVs are getting way slimmer than the previous models. Think about the old school plasma or LCD models, but the idea is pretty damn cool. The first particular product that has Xbox lookalike controllers, they feel really cheap. I think they don't even have rumble at all. So they're very basic, going back all the way to the 90s and let's say technology wise. But the overall form factor is quite comfortable, and what you're going to do is connecting. Let's get this thing out. Okay, nevertheless, you're going to connect yourself with a dongle on 2.4 GHz, so the connectivity is going to be great, and most of the time we don't have any input delay whatsoever. The overall feel of the controller is not bad at all, and this is way better and a huge improvement when you're looking at the fake PlayStation 2 controls you're getting, and most of them are super chemical. I think we don't really have analog triggers, we're just going to get everything basic as it can be. Nevertheless, the joysticks have a very nice mold and they have some extra grip at the side. Of course, we're going to get every single necessary cable, then of course a quick manual how you need to operate, or better said connect it, and how you need to set it up. Some of them are not even in English, but nevertheless in here we're going to get ourselves the needed cabling, USB and the HDMI cable. Okay, so there is only one thing, we don't have a 5-volt charger, you need to buy that separately. Then we have all the inputs, we're only going to get 2 USB ports, HDMI and a microSD card. But yeah, they're using these non-branded things, and you need to always back up them with a program like Balena Etcher. Otherwise, you're going to be losing files one day, because they just out of nothing get corrupted. But the overall design does give you enough ports and everything to connect. Powering on the device, we're going to get ourselves something different, where we're having Emulate on some of the devices. That is a piece of software you can download for free for a lot of different Android boxes. With this particular model, we're going to get more like a Pandora's box idea. Yeah, and then it's not great at all. And I mean, the way how everything looks, the names are cut off. It's absolutely a mess in my opinion. We do have this cool screenshot, but there is no movie whatsoever. And they don't add these movies simply because it takes up too much space. But how about the overall gameplay experience? I think it's pretty damn cool to even have PlayStation Portable, but we have seen, for people already familiar to products like these, the S95X3 don't have the option to emulate PlayStation Portable. Great. And you will see a lot of choppiness. Tekken will run okay with some frame skipping enabled, but you do have a lot of problems, and that's quite unfortunate with a device like this. PlayStation 1 is basically the system that runs perfectly. There is no Dreamcast, so we couldn't test it out. So for example with Alec, where we can add new emulators, we cannot do that at all with this. But yeah, if you just want to really enjoy some PlayStation 1, this device is capable of running it without any problem. N64 is one of those systems that I really love to play, but it doesn't run great. And even if it's going to be running okay, we're still going to have original native resolution. When you're having a mini PC or a more powerful device, we're going to even upscale it, and then N64 will look so much better than the original system ever looked. Nevertheless, if you're going to look into the two-dimensional stuff, also there we're going to get no problem whatsoever, and I think it's absolutely a great device. And there where these things absolutely shine when it comes to the S95X3 model. But when it comes to the platforms, there is so much that we can actually play with this. Old school Game Boy, we have even some Neo Geo Pocket. You know, there is so much stuff that you can actually just play decently. Unfortunate, all of the system don't have any bezels whatsoever, so they will look absolutely horrendous and stretched out. I was surprised to see the GS1000 or the PC Engine being on here. They do messed up the icons like Atari has and Dreamcast logos. It makes no sense. So it's kind of confusing. Nevertheless, when you're looking at it, this thing has quite a lot of different platforms to offer that we didn't see before when it comes to other models. So I think it's a very cool piece of software, but also here we do have a lot of limitations. When pressing a certain key in the main menu, we're going to get into this setting. Yeah, we have some different languages, and a lot, by the way. I was quite surprised by it that we have a lot of different languages. We do have the option to check the native files in the SD card. We can change out the key sound settings, and we can even mute it. That's absolutely horrible, that music that makes, or that tune. We have equal scale mode, so we can mess around with the scaling. So that is one of those options. I think it's pretty damn awesome. But then again, it's very limited, and at this moment making this video, this is even version number 1. So I'm curious if they're going to release any new versions in the future. We can mess with emulators. I was really surprised to see that we can actually open up the PPSSPP emulator or the PlayStation Portable emulator on the system and device itself. You can just mess around with the games if you want to and if you need to. So with settings over here, it has been set to OpenGL, frame skipping set to 1, and I can tell you some of the games will run, but if you just look at in God of War that are very demanding, those games will not run at all, so it's going to be in hit or miss. It's quite interesting that they set the filtering to 16 times, but overall when you're looking at it, I'm very glad that we can mess around with PSP, because there we're going to need it, absolutely. But when you're looking at the overall product, I think it's a very genius way how they made it. It is not something they grabbed from the shelf and just slapped it with some Like they did a completely rehaul when it comes to the PCB, added some LEDs, they made it a one unique product. And I must give them some extra kudos for that. Unfortunate, they just want to be cheap and they're using this S95X3. I wish they used the one from the GT King at least, so we have way better overall performance. If you should pick this up is of course your own choice. I think it has like some cool novelties to it, and you can put it on your television and give it like a personal position, but yeah, is it really worth buying it for that? Because it does have a lot of problems. For example, you cannot mess around with emulators, so what you see actually is what you're going to get. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it will be great to see you in the next video.